Well, I don't necessarily like this order because I feel like I might have a compromise that I could live with in voting as I tried to vote with the last compromise. But I do want to clear up some stuff here that I know Mr. Aguirre came and asked me if I had room in my home. I don't rent apartment complexes. I have one rental property. I want to be clear about that. I own one home detached. This law doesn't affect me in any way whatsoever. And so I feel comfortable voting on this law. But I want to say that I want to stay the course, and I think that a just cause is not really just unless it serves both sides of this relationship, and that we must have harmony because we're obviously creating havoc here in our city, and this law won't create any harmony or balance that I could see for both sides. It'll only create, in my opinion, winners and losers. And I want to take a look at who's going to win and who's going to lose out of this. Everybody here is under the impression that our winners have been greedy, deep-pocketed, out-of-state landlords or out-of-town landlords who are using San Jose as a big old cash machine. But I didn't see any big, greedy landlords speaking up here today, nor did I see the big out-of-town landlords speaking the last time I was here. I've only seen mostly mom and pop providers that live locally. So I want to be clear, and I don't need any clapping. So none of these out-of-state landlords found the time of their day to come testify against this rule that we think is going to hurt them so much. So I thought that was a curious thing. Why aren't these guys out here protecting their turf? They have a lot to lose, right? So I went and I hunted down a couple of these larger companies. I talked to two of their representatives, in fact, cornered them, and I asked them, why did you not come and testify? Why did you not come and say something against this just cause eviction? And both of them said, well, we don't think it's going to affect us much. And I said, well, of course it's going to affect you. They said, no, we can handle it. We got a lot of property, and we have lawyers on staff. We can handle it. We might be able to lose a few months' rent, and for them, the few months' rent isn't enough for them to have the embarrassment to come up here and ask for us to do anything. So it's obvious that we are not attacking these large, greedy, money-hungry people who are betraying this ordinance as something that's going to hurt these large, unfeeling landlords. But I want to see who's actually going to get hurt, and the people who are getting hurt have actually spoken. It's these mom and pop providers who are here and they live locally. They usually don't manage more than 20 units or so. Some of them get big enough and manage 100, I heard today. The local mom and pop, most of them don't have the resources to hire expensive lawyers. Most of them can't afford to have their units vacant while fighting to evict somebody, or most of them can't afford people having, not getting their rent while trying to prove in court that they're not getting their rent. Most of them don't have, big guys on staff, marketing their properties either. So so what they will end up doing, what I hope that they don't do, is sell to the big guys that we don't want to own these units. The very people that we are demonizing are the ones who have the most to benefit from this ordinance. I want to be clear about that. Other people that might lose are tenants. These tenants, like Mr. Aguirre, who I feel for, may not qualify under these, may be vetted out of being able to rent a property here. Because what these big landlords will do, and what even the mom and pops will be forced to do is do some extreme vetting before they rent to anybody new. They will, and I could tell you as somebody who rents their property, you want to trust that person. But if I have the power to kick them out anytime I want, I can afford to take a little risk. I could afford to, take a risk on somebody who has less than, stellar credit rating, somebody who may have had a conviction but has served their time, somebody who may be, new to this country and may not have all their paperwork. I could afford to take those risks if I had the comfort of having back my property anytime I want. But that's not what will happen anymore when we pass this ordinance. So many of us here need to recognize that there are going to be winners and losers instead of working in harmony. The winners are going to be the big property owners and the people who have less than stellar credit ratings, because that's who I'm pretty sure will end up being hurt. I'm actually positive that those are the people who are going to be hurt by this.
Please, it's getting late. We need to move on.
I think I want to, because I didn't get it through to anybody last time, and I'm going to try to make an appeal to you folks this time in a different way. I know many of us up here are married. Some of us are in long-term relationships. But, and some of us made a commitment to be married, and just cause to me makes it forces automatic annual renewals between the renter and the property owner, and the commitment is made immediately, basically on the first date. It took me a year to get married to my wife, but what we're asking these landlords to do is take this commitment permanently and on the first date. So I want to be clear here.
Please, we've got to move this along. Please allow the dialogue to continue. We can't have any more interruptions.
Thank you, Mayor. So I want to implore you. Last time we were discussing allowing at least a 12-month waiting period. It took, again, some of us may take longer. I think some of us here are taking even longer than my wife and I did before we made that commitment. I never know if my tenant is going to be that perfect tenant where I can trust them with my home and my property and my huge investment. I don't know if you know, but it takes a lot to invest. It takes millions of dollars to invest in properties here, and I want to be sure that those tenants don't destroy my property. That's the kind of thing that goes through the renters' minds. And again, I only want to seek a balance on this dais. I know that all of us are trying to do the right thing. I know all of us want to make sure that these tenants are treated with respect and they're not kicked out for any reason. And I'm not saying don't vote for just cause, but at least allow a 1-year waiting period. Make it retroactive so that anybody who's lived in their unit for a year gets that benefit immediately. So anybody who's lived in their unit for a year gets it immediately. All future tenants will have to wait a year before they're afforded this new right. And in that way, we're trying to measure our approach instead of just, cutting before we measure twice. That's all I'm asking. On any given Tuesday, we could change this and make it much more harsh. So I'm asking the maker of the motion, I'm willing to support just cause. I'm willing to support it immediately, as long as there's a waiting period of a year to allow for owners to take advantage of getting to know you. Allow the owners to get to know their tenants and make it also retroactive for people so anybody who's been in their unit for a year, give them that right away. But anybody who's new, allow them to stay without that right for a year so that the owners get to know their tenants. That's all.